Hi, it's Kristen and it's Summerween. So Summerween is a readathon that takes place every summer for the past few years. It's hosted by Gabby and Olivia. I'll leave links to their channels down below. This is my first time joining in. I've always seen it and thought it seemed fun, but never actually joined in, and I thought this year I'm going to, because I'm in the mood to read like thrillers, horrors. I've got a few things on my TBR that I really want to get to, and I thought this is the perfect opportunity to do so. So the readathon is running from July 7th to July 13th. I will say today, the first day I'm really participating, is July 10th. So the first day of the readathon, I was working all day, and then my sister came around in the evening to listen to Speak Now, Taylor's version. We had a little listening party. So I didn't read anything on that day. Then the following day it was my city's Pride event, so I went to that all day, didn't get home until like 11 p.m. and then was so tired, just went to bed, so didn't read anything that day. And then yesterday, the Sunday, my sister had stayed over, so she was still here in the morning, and then I'm doing like a couch to 5k thing, so I had to go for a run. And then I had some cinema tickets, a gift card thing that was going out of date and I needed to use up, so my friend and I went to the cinema to watch The Little Mermaid. And again, didn't get home until the evening, and then I was just exhausted from having such a busy week. That today is the first day I don't have anything going on, so I'm going to start this readathon officially for myself. So I have chosen a book for every prompt, but I'm not going to get to all of those. But I have chosen a couple of small books to try and get at least a couple of things read. So I'll tell you what the prompts are and what I am reading for each one. My computer's over here, so if I glance over here, that is why. The first prompt is to read in the dark. So I was wondering how to do this because my eyes get strained really easily and then I just get headaches, and I was like, how am I going to read in the dark? And I didn't want to hold a torch the entire time. And then I was watching someone else's Summerween related video, and they said they're doing an audiobook, and I was like, duh, yeah, that's what I should do. So this morning I was looking on my library's audiobook app, and I found a book I was interested in, called Hare House by Sally Hinchcliffe. This one is about a woman who has left her job at an all-girls school in London, and she goes to Scotland, into a cottage on the remote estate of Hare House. And it says, among the tiny roads and scattered houses, something more sinister lurks. Local tales of witchcraft, clay figures, and young men sent mad. So witchy, remote Scottish setting. That sounds so interesting. Then we have read a thriller. So I picked a book that my dad owns that I've been wanting to read for ages, and that's The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This says, off the windswept Irish coast, guests gather for the wedding of the year. Old friends, past grudges, happy families, hidden jealousies. 13 guests, one body. One guest won't leave this wedding alive. So this sounds very And Then There Were None-esque, which is an Agatha Christie story that I really enjoy. I love like secluded thriller murder mysteries where they're in like one location, they can't leave, and someone shows up dead. I find they're like my favourite kind of murder mystery. So I'm very excited to get to this. I've wanted to read it for ages, and even though it is a bit chunky for the fact that I only have like 3 days of the readathon left, I could normally read thrillers quite quickly, so I think this isn't top of my TBR, but this is one I will get to if I manage to get through other things. Next we have read a book that takes place in the fall. Gabby acknowledged that this was a difficult prompt because she was sort of like, I guess you don't know if it's set in the fall until you start reading it, unless it explicitly states it in the synopsis. So I was trying to track down a book that was set in the fall and I was really struggling. And then this morning when I was reading the synopsis for audiobooks, Hare House literally says, in the first brisk days of autumn, a woman arrives in Scotland having left her job. So we have Hare House. I'm doubling up. So my audiobook, Read in the Dark, is also a book that takes place in the fall. Next, we have read a book with orange or black on the cover. And for that, I'm going with Water Shall Refuse Them by Lucy McKnight Hardy. This I found in a charity shop and the cover caught my eye. And it says, the heatwave of 1976, following the accidental drowning of her sister, 16-year-old Nif and her family moved to a small village on the Welsh borders to escape their grief. But rural seclusion doesn't bring any relief. As her family unravels, Nif begins to put together her own form of witchcraft, collecting talismans from the sun-bleached land. That is, until she meets Mally, a teen boy who takes a keen interest in her and has his own secret rites to divulge. Reminiscent of the suspense of Shirley Jackson and soaked in the folk horror of the British Isles, Water Shall Refuse Them is an atmospheric coming-of-age novel and a thrilling debut. So this intrigued me because, again, it had that like slight witchcraft element. It's set in a heat wave, and when I bought this, we had very hot weather, so I sort of related to that. And then they moved to a small village on the Welsh borders, and I really like Wales. I'm half Welsh, my dad's Welsh, so I really like things set in Wales and like rural Wales, and the folk horror element of this really intrigued me, so I have that. Then we have read a manga / graphic novel / novella. So for this I am going with Heatwave by Victor Jestin. This is very short, so that is why I picked it. It's the end of August and the long summer holidays are drawing to a close. 17-year-old Leonard is on a camping holiday with his family in the south of France. Awkward and ill at ease, he is an outsider who creeps away from parties unnoticed after a couple of drinks. On the final Friday of the trip, unable to sleep, Leonard goes for a walk and sees one of the boys from the campsite, Oscar, hanging from the rope of a playground swing. Leonard watches as the rope slowly strangles Oscar. Then, unable to think straight, he buries the body in the sand and returns to his tent. The next day is the hottest in 17 years. Disoriented by the oppressive heat and distracted by his desire for a girl named Luce, Leonard spends the ensuing hours trying not to unravel. This sounded very intriguing. Very confusing. Odd. Interested how all that is going to be packed into such a short book. Again, I was thinking this when it was very hot. I thought these would both be good. They're both like heat waves. But the weather now has gone very rainy, very cold, very wet. Not heat wave. But maybe that's better that I don't read these while I'm like sweating and just feel worse from reading hot books. So maybe the time to read them is now while it's humid and still occasionally warm but rainy. Maybe that's what to do. So those are all the prompts, but I also have this book, which is like the book I want to read most, which is You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kaylin Bayron. This sounded so interesting the first time I heard about it. It's a slasher. So at Camp Mirror Lake, terror is the name of the game, but can you survive the night? Charity Curtis has the summer job of her dreams, playing the final girl at Camp Mirror Lake. Guests paid to be scared in this full-contact terror game as Charity and her summer crew recreate scenes from a classic slasher film, The Curse of Camp Mirror Lake. The more realistic the fear, the better for business. But on the last weekend of the season, Charity's co-workers begin disappearing, and when one ends up dead, Charity's role as the final girl suddenly becomes too real. If Charity and her girlfriend Bezzy hope to survive the night, they'll need to figure out what the killer is after. But as they unravel the bloody history of the real Mirror Lake, Charity discovers that there may be more to the story than she ever suspected. This sounded so interesting to me. I love slashers. It's like my favourite kind of horror. Like the Scream films are my favourite horror franchise. I'm not a huge horror girly, but the Scream films, chef's kiss. Love the Scream films. I enjoy a slasher. There's a show I watched called, I want to say it's like Harper's Island or something, which again is like a bunch of people go to a wedding on an island and then the guests start dying one by one and everyone's stuck on the island. And I loved that. So this sounds like it could be right up my alley. This is also a really cool exclusive edition with sprayed edges. So this doesn't fit any of the prompts, or I've not used it to fit any of the prompts, but it's the book I want to read the most. I've seen other people put it on their TBRs as like orange or black on the cover because her hair is black. So maybe I will do that, but it's a lot shorter than I thought it was when I bought it, than I thought it was going to be. It's only like 200 and something pages, I think. So I'm like, I could read this quite quickly potentially, so I really want to get to it. So yeah, that is it. I will update you when I've read stuff or when something happens. So I just finished reading Heatwave by Victor Justin, translated by Sam Taylor. I was gonna start this last night and then I thought, I don't want to read a book about a heatwave at night when it's dark. So I decided to wait and read it today because even though it's been raining, at least there was some sunshine for a bit. At least there was daylight. And it's quite warm despite the rain. It's hot in my room. So this had such an intriguing premise of this teenage boy seeing someone die and then deciding to hide the body rather than tell anyone what he'd seen. And I was so intrigued by that premise. And then the actual book, I didn't really like. The rest of the book just takes place over like 1 or 2 days following him seeing that during the end of his family's holiday. And like, it kind of deals with his thoughts about what he's seen and like a bit of guilt having buried the body and stuff, but it's mostly just about him following this girl around and his other like sort of friend-ish acquaintance just talking about having sex with girls. I sort of didn't get the point of it. So I gave it 2 stars. And I don't know, it was so short, so I don't feel like I've wasted my time reading it, but I feel like it's one of those books that's not going to have any impact on me and I'm gonna like forget about. So that's a disappointing start to the readathon. Yeah, I was so intrigued by this and really looking forward to reading it, and it was just very meh for me. It's not got a brilliant rating on Goodreads or Storygraph, so I am not in the minority. It's, yeah, I've seen a couple of 4-star reviews, a lot of 3-star, a lot of 2-star, and some 1-star reviews. Yeah, I don't know. Someone else described it as like It's like a coming of age novella about a teenage boy with a really interesting starting point and premise, because it gets straight into it. Like, the opening page is this other teenage boy dying, so it gets straight into that action and then sort of goes nowhere. So I'm disappointed. I'm hoping my next read, which is going to be You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight, is going to be good. And I know I said earlier that this doesn't really fit any of the prompts, but I just really want to read it, so I'm going to. So today is Wednesday the 12th. Tomorrow is the last day of the readathon. I hadn't anticipated reading anything today because I was supposed to be working all day, like 8 a.m. until 9:30 p.m. But I woke up feeling so ill. So I'm not going into it today. Yesterday morning, I think I talked about this book. Yesterday morning, like late morning, I started this, finished it early afternoon, and then sort of mid-afternoon I started You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kian Bayron, and I finished it in the evening. So I read 2 books yesterday. They're both like small. This was like 100 something pages, and this I think was like 220 something. So together they make like a 330 page book or something. But still, 2 books, 2 things read in one day is good for me, especially. I really enjoyed You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. It took some turns I wasn't expecting. It had some twists that I was expecting or that I'd guessed, some of which I was like, eh, and some I still thought were like played off quite well. Some of the turns it took I wasn't super into, and the ending felt a little rushed, but the ending also had a couple of moments that genuinely surprised me, so that was fun. This felt very atmospheric. It felt like watching a horror slasher film, which was fun, and which is why I think I read it so fast, because it was very gripping. I saw someone the other day say, like, don't look up anything about this book, go into it only knowing like the basic premise, and I was intrigued by that because I was like, I wonder what happens. But I very much agree with them, like, don't look up spoilers, don't look up like horror elements, horror tropes that are included in here, because I think the turns and twists it takes are quite fun. I do agree with some reviews I saw that said like it does feel a bit rushed at the end, and I don't know, everything's explained but not necessarily in a way that has you able to connect the dots, really, which was a slight shame, because I like when things fall into place and you're like, oh, because this had a couple of moments that in hindsight you're like, oh, that was that thing, or if you're suspicious of certain characters you're like, yeah, okay, I see that in that moment it was this thing. But yeah, the big reveal of what's going on I didn't love. But still fun, atmospheric. It takes a while to get going for such a short book. I feel like it took until about halfway through for anything to actually happen. Like, there was a lot of scene setting, which was good in that it helped you get to know who all the characters were, but then it meant that the second half of the book was just action, 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 no stopping to assess stuff really. Just kept moving at a fast pace, which is good if you like that sort of thing, which I generally do. But I feel like there could have been a little more time taken to reveal things more slowly. But I gave it like 3.5, 3.75 stars. Fun if you like horror, slasher, teen horror films. Yes, would recommend. So we had a not so great book and a good book yesterday, and today I'm gonna go with attempting to read parts of the guest list, because I had this and I had Water Shall Refuse Them as my physical books, and my other book was To Read in the Dark. But I feel like a folk horror that's about a really hot setting would just drain me. I feel like my attention span is not here. I keep having to just like lie down and close my eyes and rest. So I wanted something that I think I'll enjoy slightly more. I feel like I might like this slightly more than the other one. And I feel like a thriller is probably more helpful in like, not to jump in and out of, but to read bit by bit and also keep me reading, so that I can like nap in between. And it doesn't look like the chapters are very long in this, which is good. It means I can read like 1 or 2 chapters and just lie down and close my eyes and then read a couple more. So yeah, I'm gonna read the guest list. Sorry, these are not fun clips. I'm so sorry. But I'm in my house alone and I thought I could film now. But yeah, apologies for this. I feel like I get sick or like have a really bad cold, get sick, have some sort of illness during like every readathon. Every time I attempt to vlog a readathon, I feel ill and I hate it. So yeah, apologies. I will update you. Probably not anymore today. We'll see how I'm feeling tomorrow. But yeah, I'll try and film a wrap up of what I think of this, and then like a whole readathon wrap up at some point in the next couple of days, so that this can go up within a reasonable time period. So, you know, in the last clip I said I wasn't feeling great, but I was gonna have the day off work, and so I was gonna try and read the guest list over the last 2 days of the readathon. That absolutely did not happen. It is now Monday the 17th, and that I'm just gonna have the day off work because I'm really not feeling well turned into a multiple day illness, where like my normal health, let's say, is here. Wednesday I was feeling like here, and over the next few days I just was so ill. I really couldn't concentrate on reading, so I didn't read anything else, and I just watched YouTube and RuPaul's Drag Race endlessly. Today is like the first day I'm feeling somewhat normal again. Yesterday was better than I have been, but today I'm actually feeling like I can walk around a bit. I was just like barely left my bed at all over the past few days. So my readathon, my Summerween readathon, I didn't manage to start on day one of the readathon because I was so busy and I had a really busy weekend. And then I did manage to read, and I read 2 things in one day, and I was so excited. And then that's when everything just went to shit. So 2 things read, both short, and actually that's just one day's reading. So anyway, the prompts I managed to do were to read a novella, because this is only like 103 pages, 105 pages, 104 pages long, so that's short, it's a novella. And then this wasn't actually one of my ones that fit into any of the prompts, where I wasn't using it to complete any of the prompts, but it does have black on the cover, and one of the prompts was a book with orange or black on the cover. So I'm taking this for that prompt, so I can say that I've done 2 books, 2 prompts, and that suits me fine. I was so excited to join in with Summerween for the first time, and like I am really glad. Like the day that I read these, I was feeling really good, really productive. It got 2 things off my TBR in one day. I was so happy. And I thought, oh, this will make up for like not starting the readathon early, and then I've still got Wednesday to maybe read a bit, and all day Thursday. And then that just absolutely did not happen. Yeah, I think I said in the last clip, like every time I decide to really go for a readathon, I either end up like way busier than I usually am, and so I'm trying to figure when to fit my reading in, or if I actually have some time off, I suddenly get really sick, and I don't know what it is. It's not good. So yeah, I actually have started this now, not at all within the readathon, but I thought I'd let you know I have started it. I'm like 3 chapters in. I've just not had concentration, and I think this is one that I need to just like sit down and read, because I feel like that's the best way that I find to read thrillers. So I need to just like, now that I'm feeling a bit better, I think my concentration will have come back a bit, and I don't need to just be laid in bed on my side with my laptop propped so I can watch Drag Race and stuff. So hopefully now I'll get back into reading a bit more, because at this point it's been like 6 days, like almost a week, since I've completed anything or really read anything other than like 20 pages of this over the course of like 3 days. So yes, I read 2 things. One was a 2-star, one was like a 3.5, 3.75. I didn't enjoy this. I did enjoy this, even though I didn't love it. Don't know who I would recommend this to be honest. This I would recommend to people who like YA, who enjoy campy horror, slasher kind of stuff. People who want more queer representation in their horror, people who want more representation of people of colour in their horror, because I think almost the entire cast of this are people of colour. So yeah, 2 things read in one day over the course of a week. It's readathon. 2 prompts completed. I would love to do Summerween again. I've loved watching everyone's Summerween vlogs. I feel like this is a readathon that the book community generally, or at least the people I seem to follow, get really into, which is always nice. I think it's very fun because you can really lean into the like autumnal side of horror. If you're like not a summer person, you can use this as a can't wait for autumn, really looking forward to like Halloween and stuff. Or you can go for the like summer horror version of things. I feel like there's a lot of summer horror films or horror films set at summertime at like camps and stuff, and I think the atmosphere of like a heat wave has like attention and pressure to it in the same way that like a gloomy rainy night does. So I think summer horror is very fun as well. So yeah, I will try and do this next year and really hope that I don't get ill. That's a whole year in the future. But yes, and I guess I'll join in with the regular like readathon Halloween one, which I can't remember the name of. But yes, I will say goodbye to you now. Sorry this has been a sort of lackluster vlog. I had intended on getting lots of b-roll as well, but that didn't happen because I'd planned to do that on like the Wednesday, Thursday, sort of end of the readathon, and then obviously was really ill, so wasn't even thinking about that. So yes, sorry that this has been, like I said, lackluster, disappointing. It's been disappointing to me too. So yes, there we go. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon with hopefully a more fun reading vlog or just video soon. Bye!